Hello, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here to talk about the future of work, the new AI landscape. Here's what I want you to think about: a framework for understanding the impacts of AI on our lives and our economy. AI that makes humans more productive, AI that makes machines more productive, and AI that makes AI more productive. So let's think about this one step at a time. For starters, I'm going to take you all the way to Chile. Now, I don't know if you know this, but Chile represents the third largest market for mayonnaise in the world. So when these three gentlemen, Matthias, Karim, and Pablo, decided to make a plant-based version of mayo in Chile, everyone said, "You're crazy. They have such a refined taste. It would take you hundreds of hours, lots of expert chefs to come up with something that would taste like mayo, that would satisfy their palate." So they knew they needed a new team member to make them more efficient, more productive, to become more valuable in the plant-based market. And they brought on board Giuseppe. Giuseppe is an AI assistant. And here's what they did. They took 400,000 plants and all their structural components, and they fed it to their AI assistant. And the interface of Giuseppe looks like this. And they told the lab assistants to mix the ingredients recommended by Giuseppe, and then they had the chefs taste them. So Giuseppe started saying bizarre things like mix up pineapple and cabbage to make milk. And even though it sounded crazy, they did. And lo and behold, some of the recipes actually started turning out really well liked by the chefs that were hired by Notco. The result? Not Mayo became the second best-selling mayo supplier in Chile, a huge achievement. And there was so much excitement about it that the company started not mayo only, but not milk, not burger, not ice cream, using the same trusted AI assistant called Giuseppe to make recipes that tasted exactly like the original animal-based version. Now here's the remarkable thing about Giuseppe. Not only is it fast, it becomes faster. So to make the plant-based version of 2% milk, it took Giuseppe 10 months. But to make the plant-based version of whole milk, it only took Giuseppe 2 months. It means it becomes more accurate over time. Now that kind of competitive advantage is very hard for anybody to compete with just a human-based team. Notco went on to raise more money from the likes of Roger Federer, for all you tennis fans, and then IPO'd in a SPAC, and now has partnerships of fake chicken, fake salmon with the likes of Starbucks and Burger King. Well, if you think about this and you bring in generative AI, imagine how much more boost human productivity gets when you can interact with it in human language. So with Giuseppe, you still needed that interface. Imagine just talking to Giuseppe. Now, if you think about e-commerce, Zalora in Asia, which is really well known, a fashion e-commerce brand, it has started what it calls a conversational shopping assistant. Essentially, it will automate all the services of chatting with customers, but it will do a lot more than just customer service. It will also tag all of the product attributes. And this means that it will be able to generate SKUs with comprehensive product description, reducing hundreds of hours of manual entry. If you think about What else it can do in e-commerce? Imagine making virtual hosts for your live streaming. We all know Kim Kardashian has been on WeChat and a lot of the big e-commerce platforms in China. But China's JD.com is now creating virtual hosts that speak perfectly and has modeled them after celebrity influencers. This means that you can now scale enormously, personalizing what I'm getting versus what you're getting versus what your mom is getting versus what your son is getting. And it's all from this replica of a celebrity. To get that kind of personalization, to get that kind of automation through generative AI, which allows everyone to speak to you, every AI assistant to speak to you in a language that is engaging, empathetic, personalized, is hugely valuable to e-commerce. Other common assistants we'll see in e-commerce are coding copilots. We know that a lot of us spend huge amount of time hiring, training, paying for computer scientists to code. But now, generative AI coding copilots can cut it down by 10 to 30%. And in the long run, many think they will replace many of the programmers that we see in their generic roles in the market. Now, let's move on to another aspect of artificial intelligence. The fact that it makes machines more productive. And I love this because this is something a lot of us don't think about. But for this, I want to take you to England. So Rolls-Royce, I don't know if you know this, is the second largest maker of aircraft engines in the world. So if you've taken a long-haul flight, more than 12 hours in the recent year, it's likely that if you looked out the window, it would be a Rolls-Royce engine. And Stuart Hughes is the Chief Digital Officer at Rolls-Royce, and he decided to make engines more efficient because every X number of weeks, the engine has to be taken off the plane for maintenance. And sometimes it doesn't need the maintenance. And at other times, it needs it earlier and there's a breakdown. In both cases, the machine is not optimally serving the airlines like American Airlines, Lufthansa, Singapore Airlines, Thai Airlines. And so he said, how can I know that the machine needs maintenance? If I knew it, I could actually improve its productivity. So he and his team put tiny sensors all over the engines. And as a result of this, those sensors would pick up everything about the engine as it was in the air or on the ground. And this could be simulated in a digital twin on the computer. So on the right side, you can see the digital twin, and on the left side is the actual engine. Well, here's how it works. There are two things that a machine, any machine, whether it is in a factory, whether it's a car, whether it's an engine, in an airplane, needs to know. One, just like human beings, a machine needs to have contextual awareness. In this case, the machine needed to know things that were happening around it. What were the weather like? What was the flight plan? If you were going from Singapore to Sydney, it needs to know that. If it was humid, it needs to know that. And all of this data is coming real time from satellite connectivity as the engine is moving through the sky with the plane. Any machine should also know its own state. It should be self-aware. It should know its context. It should be self-aware. And in this case, the sensors are picking up, man, the screw is not working. Or there are blades that are wearing down. or there's wear and tear at this point in the engine. And then the artificial intelligence can diagnose it. In real time, you're able to tell what is happening with the state of the engine. What happens when you combine these two things? What's happening around the engine and what is happening to the engine is the artificial intelligence that has a lot of data points, and it begins to run some pattern analysis. And it says, when it runs in this weather after 100 flights, it's time for it to get a predictive maintenance repair. If it doesn't get this repair, the prediction is that it will break down. And so getting that timing absolutely right means the machine only has downtime when needed and never has extensive downtime because it's been repaired beforehand. Now what happened at Rolls-Royce was that the time between maintenance for some of the engines extended by up to 50%, leading to far more profitability for the firm and happier customers for Rolls-Royce. Now think about generative AI. Imagine how would you use generative AI in e-commerce, and how could it make the machine more productive by a ton more? So I want to take you all the way to Google DeepMind. Google DeepMind has unveiled a new robot. And the remarkable thing about this robot is that it recognizes objects on this table. And as you can see, there's a ball, there's a plastic banana, there's a football, there's a tiger, among other animals. And you tell the robot, pick up the tiger. It has never seen a tiger before. What it does is, it searches for something that looks like the tiger on the internet. In other words, the robot has trained itself. It has scraped the data, and now it allows robots to respond to simple language commands more effectively. This is unprecedented. And if you think about what that does to e-commerce, all you need to think about is warehouses. More and more, we are seeing robots like React, which is a German robotics company that just received seed funding, that is able to give you robots that recognize grasping points on arbitrary objects without any training. And that's because they're able to train themselves by getting knowledge of the internet or of catalogs. This means that these robots are ready to go. You don't have to spend time training them. And this means that your cost of labor goes way down in your warehouses. Your cost of automation becomes lower as well because you don't have to pre-train them. And your time to get your supplies out of your warehouse in the kind of speed that customers expect goes way higher. The equivalent of this would be a robot that you would train to cook pizza, or you would say, go find pizza on the internet. It would understand what you mean. It would search up the pizza recipe. In text, it would understand what it means, and then it would go and make the pizza. This is how generative AI is AI on steroids, essentially. Now let's go back to what I said originally, which is a third pillar, which is that AI makes AI more productive. And again, generative AI boosts AI productivity many, many fold. AI is not new, right? But the ability for AI to control other AI is very new. Here is something called AutoGPT. AutoGPT is able to chain together tasks to achieve a big picture goal. This is Jarvis. It's a new project from Microsoft. And essentially, what it was asked to do was, you know what? I would like you to create a picture where a girl is reading a book. And her pose should be the same as the boy in the first image. And then please describe this image with your voice. So first, it has to do a couple of things. It has to get the image of the boy. It has to copy its pose. Then it has to create the image of the girl. Then it has to make sure the image of the girl is the same as the stance of the boy. And then it has to actually say what's happening. In other words, it should say a girl sitting on a bed reading a book. These are about 3 to 4 different LLMs or AI models. One on image creation, one on voice note creation, one on actually looking at the pose and understanding that. But it has been seamlessly understood with one prompt from the human, and it does all of these things. Now, how will that look like in an e-commerce setting? Well, first I want you to think about Rembrandt. Rembrandt is a new AI startup, which is a generative AI startup. And what it does is that it inserts 3D objects into any video, post-production. So I'm sitting here right now, and I have this bottle of water, and I'm talking to you. Now, you're an agency, you want to put a Coca-Cola bottle here, you want to put a beer can here, you want to put chocolate milk in my hand. That's not easy to do post-production. You'd have to film me doing it several times. But now with generative AI and a company like Rembrandt, you can easily put these things in the background or wherever it is in the picture frame. Here's how it works if you were to imagine what personalized recommendations will look like in the future. So on the extreme left, we're very used to this, right? You go to Amazon and it says, here are your recently viewed items and here are some featured recommendations. Recommendations use machine learning, well-known algorithms. Netflix uses them, Facebook uses them, Amazon uses them. But what if that's not enough? What if after this, I saw an ad for one of the things that was recommended to me? And after that, a chatbot actually started talking to me about the very thing that I had clicked on and liked and then saw an ad about. This chain of events, this chain of all-in-one customer journey through AutoGPT, from personalized recommendations to personalized ads to personalized conversations, these complete personalized customer journeys that happen automatically, each one of them is using a different AI model. And in real time, depending on who is looking at it, we're all seeing different things. And we're all being interacted with in a slightly different way by the conversational bot. And that's because the instructions are coming from the orchestrator, the conductor AI, which is, in the previous case, was Jarvis. This is going to really change productivity in any e-commerce firm. And this will be, again, a huge competitive advantage that will be very difficult for other firms to compete with. So, as I mentioned, there are 3 things, if you recall, and all 3 of them play out in the e-commerce sector. Of course, you have AI that makes humans more productive. These are things most familiar to us. Chatbots. We've all seen images being made, movies being made with a runway, images being made with stable diffusion. But equally important will be when machines become more productive, the supply chain becomes more productive. And then at the end of it all will be a string of AI chains that creates the ultimate personalized experience and journey, where one AI prompts the others and then reports to you as the CFO or the head of product management, the head of marketing, in plain, understandable English, what it did and what the results were. And this is how generative AI takes what is already a great improvement in productivity, personalization, customization, creativity, thanks to AI, and really takes it to the nth degree. But we can't stop there. Any conversation that stops there makes a mistake. Because I've only talked about all the benefits, but you know as well as I do that we need governance and ethics in this human-machine economy where we have AI assistants and AI colleagues. The European Union says, look, AI owners like you and me who have companies and we're using these algorithms, we're asking our teams to do it, we are responsible to manage the risks of these algorithms. We already know that there's often bias in them. For example, a chatbot may be more inclined towards one race versus another, or one gender versus another. And that may be because historically the data that is being used actually is biased. And maybe because there was bias in culture in the years before. So when we develop AI, we must have metrics that check and systems that check there is no bias, no manipulation, especially if you're using generative AI, that you're not taking the data people are giving you and passing it on into your database, but you're maintaining privacy of everyone who is engaging with your generative AI. These are not new questions in the world of tech, but for the first time, governments are focusing on artificial intelligence in particular, with the latest addendums to them being about generative AI. I can't emphasize enough how important it is for us to have a new way of being skilled in this world. Now, for me, the two most important skills in the top 10 that the World Economic Forum has said are on the rise in the world are creative thinking and analytical thinking. One without the other doesn't work. Humanities plus the sciences. You need to have a little bit of both to actually be able to connect the dots and make a product that is not only valuable to clients, but also ethical and empathetic. Now, it's very hard to find both things equally in one person, which is why there's so much opportunity for all of us, because each one of us may be more artistic, maybe a project manager, maybe a coder, could be an AI engineer like me, but each one of us has a role to play, because without these two things, you cannot build a good product and you can't use artificial intelligence. So no matter what your role is in a company, please know that you are meant to thrive in this new world. And my question to you is just this: are you ready to take this on? Because the opportunity is there. Whether you're a lawyer working on IP, or a risk management specialist or auditor working on risk management, whether you're a coder, whether you are an e-commerce specialist, whatever you are, this new world of artificial intelligence as an assistant, and also as something to be governed ethically, opens up a world of possibility for each one of us. I want to leave you with this picture. These young girls are part of my charity that I started 10 years ago, which was to teach girls the basics of coding and artificial intelligence. These girls don't have a tech background, but they came for 10 weeks, every Saturday for 3 hours. That's all. They came on Saturday mornings. They didn't have to. They were studying. And they said they were nervous because they were hearing all the hype about AI, but didn't know where they fit in. They didn't feel confident. And in those 10 weeks, we taught them the basics of AI. We taught them how to connect AI problems to business problems to AI solutions. And finally, the ethics of how to use AI responsibly. And at the end of it, look at their faces. They were full of confidence. And they were so proud. And they told us that they feel like they can play a part in this world, that they can revolutionize products and services. And I'm confident that all of us can. But we always have to have a balanced approach towards it. If we're responsible in how we do it, this is an unprecedented time. And you don't want to be left behind, not only because you wouldn't have as much an interesting career as you would if you worked with AI, but also because if you don't use it, you and your team and your company will be at a huge competitive disadvantage. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I'm so pleased to have this opportunity to speak to you about a topic that I love. Thank you again.